Hello everybody and welcome back to another online Chinese history class with me, Tony. Last class we reviewed the sorcerers of the Shang Dynasty and how they used the oracle inscriptions to make themselves more powerful, and eventually more powerful than the king. However, one king named Wu Yi decided that this was enough and stopped the sorcerers' continuing rise of power. In fact, the sorcerers almost had no power after that. The Shang Dynasty grew and prospered until a person named Di Xin became the king. When Di Xin started ruling, he didn't seem or look like a bad leader. As a matter of fact, he was considered to be a great ruler who made great decisions to help the Shang Dynasty. What the people did not know was how much their opinions and their lives were going to change a couple of years later. And a couple of years later, Di Xin would become the worst king of the Shang Dynasty, just like Jie, who was the worst king and the last of the Xia Dynasty. In fact, Di Xin was a lot like Jie. They both were very, very strong. Di Xin could pull a couple of bulls by a rope with his bare hands and bare arms. He could lift a cat only using one of his fingers and chop down a tree faster than any other woodcutter. Apart from all of this incredible strength and vitality like Jie, he also had what Jie didn't have: admirable charisma and very good persuasive and speaking skills. When somebody criticized him or told him that he did something wrong, he would come back at them and bring out many points that would leave the person speechless, and they won't criticize him ever again. He also persuades groups of ministers to follow his orders and that his plans are all correct. So, Di Xin started becoming more like Jie and more of a worse ruler. He was becoming more corrupted. Di Xin started continuously building palaces and expanding on them. It was said that he put gold and treasures he plundered from tribes inside the palaces. He also created pools of wine, but this time outside of the palace, unlike Jie. He also didn't force people to drown in them, but rather used the pools of wine for his own enjoyment. He also created forests of steak. I know, it sounds weird, but it kind of is true. He basically hand steak on sticks and then put them in formation of forest. And some of them were as tall as a sapling, and some of them were as tall as actual trees. Now that's very tall, considering how much steak would have to be on the stick. The king would have big parties and invite all the ministers and people of his palace over. They would rest in the wine pool, enjoy a steak, throw around gold, and watch people get severely punished. Di Xin made from some very, very severe punishments, just like Jie. Sometimes it isn't even punishment anymore, it's just for his fun and his enjoyment. For example, if a person questions Di Xin's laws or actions that he makes or tries to go against him, he will put him or her on a giant bronze stick or rod with oil on it. You might be thinking, now that's not all bad. The oil will make it slippery and maybe it will fall, but that's it, right? Just like one broken arm or something. Well, that's not it. He also put chains on people's wrists and ties it to the bronze stick so they can't escape. Then he would order people to put fire on the stick and the person. He will put it around. And the oil would make the fire much worse, and it will catch on fire too. If the person who's being punished slips and their legs end up on the ground, then they will get severely burned and the fire will travel up their body. And if they don't fall off and they manage to hang on, they still can't escape because they have the chains on their wrists, and they'll still get burned because of the growing fire and is spreading through the oil. What did people think about this? What did people think about this cruel, severe, spontaneous punishment? I'll give you 4 answer choices to choose from. A. Xing's uncle thought that it was disgusting and just couldn't take it anymore. He tried to convince Xing to stop that, and it was really inhumane. He told Xing that this would cause lots of trouble, especially from the people and other tribes. He didn't want them to end up like the Xia Dynasty and just be overthrown by other tribes. B. The civilians became very, very cautious of what they spoke in front of Xing, and a bunch of them left the Shang Dynasty to join up with the other tribes and eventually rebel against them. The people who stayed there just didn't talk to Xing anymore and didn't dare speak to him because of his weird and very hurtful and severe punishments. C. Other people just went along with it because they were too scared of what Xing would do and the terrible torture and ideas of punishments he had. Like, what other punishments did he have, If he had that in mind, he must have had other really, really bad punishments and really hurtful ones and really severe ones that would be even weirder than this one. That will make him more evil, as you could say. Or D. A couple of ministers were disgusted and thought Xing was no longer worthy of being the king. They hired assassins to assassinate him in his sleep. After that was done, they created their own dynasty, and everybody was happy. The ministers didn't exactly provide a good dynasty or was that good of kings because, well, they didn't have that much experience of being kings, but it was better than being under Xing's rule. The correct answer will be revealed in about 5 seconds, and I'll just give you some time to think about this. Okay, so on to the correct answer, and that was A. Xing's uncle thought that it was disgusting and just couldn't take it anymore. He tried to convince Xing to stop that, and it was really inhumane. He told Xing that this would cause lots and lots of trouble, especially from the people and other tribes. This time, Xing was too lazy to argue. He instead thought of saints and sages who taught people things and told people advice. Legend has it that they had 7 holes in their hearts. Since his uncle gave him some advice, and pretty smart advice actually, and tried to convince him, he must be like a saint or sage, Xing thought. So he just straight up ripped out his uncle's heart to check if it had 7 holes in it. Of course, it didn't, but that taught other people how evil and cruel Xing was. He was a true tyrant. We'll talk about him more next class, and that's it for today. See you all next time.